What's going on, everybody? My name is Bendy, and this is Disney Heroes.
Find the fun.
Yeah, find the fun. I don't know how to do that.
Okay, well, try to think of something funny.
Oh, remember the funny movie where the dog dies? Get all cold, shivery, everything just starts feeling droopy.
So, if you couldn't guess by that intro, today we're going to be talking about Sadness. So, Sadness. She's been a very highly requested hero for this series, probably because she's very difficult to deal with and very annoying. She does a lot of damage with that Rain Cloud move, so we're going to talk about how to help deal with her, who she works well with, against, what mods you should give her, what her skills do, all that stuff. You guys know how the series works by now, I think. Maybe? I don't know. Do you? Have you seen a video of mine yet? If you like my channel, if you like my videos, give me a like, subscribe, comment. You guys know the deal. It really helps out my channel, and I would really appreciate it. So, with all that out of the way, let's just get right on into it. So, Sadness. She is the hero from Inside Out. The second hero I've already done on this hero overview series from Inside Out. We're going to start with her skills, like we always do. Something to note is she does not actually have a basic attack. This means that Sadness only does fantastic damage, and she does no normal dash basic damage whatsoever. Just before we even start, just something to note. So anyways, her white skill. She has a passive white skill, so this means that this is going to be occurring just throughout the wave, just on its own, without you having to do anything. So instead of using a basic attack, Sadness cowers, dodging basic attacks for 2 seconds and gaining 1 stack of sorrow. Now, I don't really understand how this dodging works. Is she just constantly dodging attacks? Or is this just like cued by her white skill down here? It's not exactly clear, but I guess anytime you see her do this little animation. She gains 3 stacks of sorrow when an ally is KO'd, and Sadness gains armor and reality from each stack of sorrow and carries 50% of her stacks of sorrow from wave to wave. Notice that her armor and reality boost from this skill is boosted by her basic attacks. Her active.
What are you doing?
And there. This is the circle of sadness. Your job is to make sure that all the sadness stays inside of it.
Sadness targets the enemy with the most remaining HP, applying 2 stacks of fatigue to them, and creating a circle of sadness around them for 8 seconds. While in the circle, all enemies are silenced and debuffs applied to them last 50% longer. So if you don't know, fatigue is pretty much the opposite of hardy. So what it does is it gets applied to the enemy as like a debuff, and it'll prevent that enemy from using a buff that they have. So for example, if you use this on an enemy Slinky Dog, it's going to prevent that Slinky from applying the shield 2 times to themselves. So that's just one example. There's obviously a million different examples. But anyways, that's what fatigue does. So in addition to that though, they get silenced and their debuffs last 50% longer. So this is a pretty crazy white skill, not gonna lie. It's definitely one of the reasons she's pretty good, but definitely the key here is gaining sorrow. And when we get into like how to counter her and stuff like that, having ways to deal with the sorrow is definitely going to be the best way to counter her. So anyways, green skill, Rain Cloud.
I only make everything worse.
This is definitely what often kills people the most in general, but the key here is that it causes damage over time for 4 seconds. So this is multiple hits. It does quite a bit of damage over time. Sadness deals 15% more damage with this skill per stack of sorrow. So you can see how controlling her stacks of sorrow would be the best way to make this so that this Rain Cloud doesn't do quite as much damage to you. Her blue skill, Wails and Woes.
Crying helps me slow down and obsess over the weight of life's problems.
Sadness starts to wail, dealing a lot of damage to and silencing nearby enemies for 8 seconds. Sadness deals a pretty decent amount of more damage with this skill per stack of sorrow. So I'm guessing, I feel like this kind of works out to being about the same as the 15% over here, maybe a little bit more, but this also does quite a bit of damage. But definitely the key is that she silences and she deals more damage per stack of sorrow. The sorrows are definitely her key to success. So her purple skill, Slow Down. Enemies who damage Sadness have their attack and movement speed reduced by 10% for 5 seconds. This speed reduction can stack up to 5 times. So she can give up to a 50% speed reduction, but it's only for like 5 seconds, so I don't think this really matters that much. This definitely is not what makes her that great, but it's definitely a nice little perk to have. So her red skill, Sad State. Sadness gains 1 stack of sorrow for every 3 enemies that are silenced. So if you pop her on a silence team, or she even does quite a bit of silencing herself, she's going to just keep gaining stacks of sorrow alongside, say, Disgust or Angel or somebody else. Silenced enemies take 50% more damage from basic attacks, so you could pop her on a very basic attack heavy team, and your team will just do way more damage. The increased damage against silenced enemies is less effective, blah blah blah. Normal stuff. She also gains max HP with this, and she gains more armor in reality per stack of sorrow, which I think is reflected over here. Oh, maybe not. Never mind. Anyways, definitely the 3 things that make her good are her white, green, and blue skill. She just gets stronger and stronger as the wave goes on, so just kind of keep that in mind. She's kind of similar to Pooh in that way. Alright, so let's see what the battle badge does. It gets charged when silence is applied to 1 enemy, so that's going to be very often when it comes to Sadness. She gains skill power and reality per yellow team hero. So that's kind of cool, nothing too crazy. And then if you enhance her battle badge, she gains healing over time, 75% of max HP healed over 5 seconds. Just keep in mind that the charging of the battle badge only applies 1 time per wave. So as soon as she gets a silence off against the enemy, she's going to get this boost. The healing over time is just going to happen 1 time, as far as I know. I don't think the 3rd one repeats, as much as it sounds like it should repeat. I think it should repeat personally, but just know that it only applies 1 time in the wave. It's just a permanent skill power boost. Anyways, that's just how battle badges work. I made a whole video on battle badges, so... Oh wait, let's go back to her friend disc, because I didn't do that yet. The friend discs, we have the Joy friend disc, called Mixed Emotions. On the disc power side of things, the level, she gains max HP and armor to Sadness and allies for the first 10 seconds of each wave. Nothing too crazy. Armor's kind of cool, I guess. For the disc star level over here, we get minus whatever normal crit to enemies for the first 12 seconds of battle. I'm guessing this goes to maybe like 60 or 70% or something when it's maxed out, but I don't have the disc maxed out, obviously, so I don't know exactly what it goes to. But this is going to be a very cool little counter to, say, like, Dash, Mulan, anybody with crit. On this side, this is the one that I use, and I think this is kind of the one that most people use in general. But we have Sad Times. Each stack of sorrow grants allies 520 basic damage, or just a number. It seems to be a pretty low number, because I've been leveling this up quite a bit. I mean, it's not super high yet, but still, it doesn't seem like it goes up very high. But anyways, over here, Sadness begins the wave with 1 stack of sorrow. Obviously, as you level it up, it's going to go higher. I'm guessing it's like 5 when it's maxed out. I have to do this friend campaign still. I just can't beat it. It's very annoying. But anyways, that's what the friend disc does. I'd recommend this one over the Joy one, although the Joy one can be pretty good against very specific heroes if you wanted to power this one up. But I think this one's just better overall, plus starting with stacks of sorrow makes it so that she does way more damage with her green and blue skill right away, which is going to give you quite an advantage. Alright, so we talked about the skills, her friend disc, and her battle badge. Let's talk about her mods. When it comes to Sadness, you got quite a few options that you can do for mods on her. As you can see, I've given her 2 blue skill mods. I may change it at one point, I don't know, but it's a toss-up between if you want to use it on the green skill or the blue skill. They kind of do the same thing. I would not give her a purple skill because this is a level-based skill, and if you don't know, you should generally avoid giving heroes mods for level up skills. This is just like a general little rule of thumb. What I would do for Sadness is either green or blue, whichever one you're feeling. I went with blue personally just because I had some blue mods, so I was able to just give it to her. So for this 3rd spot, I'm probably going to give her a circle mod with, I don't know, her armor and reality seem kind of even, so you can kind of do whatever you want with it. I think I'm going to go with reality personally, but you could go with whichever one you want. You could also do 2 of them if you want. You could do 2 circle mods, give her a bigger reality or armor boost, or you can do 1 of each, even things out. You could also give her a speed boost mod. Those could work really well. You could give her a shield mod, but I don't think shield mods are all that great, to be honest, because they only go in the beginning of the wave, so it just gives you a little defense boost right at the start, so it doesn't last any more than like 5 seconds usually, so I don't think the shield mod is that great unless it's for like a hero like Mulan that uses shield to her advantage. I would recommend avoiding giving her a crit mod because the only thing she has is normal crit and she does no normal damage whatsoever, so the normal crit that she has is completely useless, and as you can see, she doesn't have any fantastic crit. So a crit mod on Sadness is going to be 100% useless on her. So I definitely would not give her that. Could do 3 skill power mods with more green or blue, doesn't really matter. You could give her 2 armor mods or 1 armor mod and a speed mod. something like that. And yeah, so that's pretty much it for the mods for Sadness. You got a few options there. Just avoid a purple skill mod and crit mods on her, and you'll be fine. Okay, we've talked about all of her skills, mods, friend discs, all that stuff. Let's get on to who Fear is good with. So, if you couldn't guess, Sadness is going to be great with silence teams. So, that could be Disgust, Angel, Tia, anybody with silence, she's going to go great with, especially once you have a red skill. You can take more of an advantage of her red skill and deal more damage with their basic attacks. Similarly, heroes that deal a lot for their basic attack are going to be great. For example, Dash, Mulan, Pleakley, stuff like that. Anybody that does like normal damage and stuff is going to go great with Sadness just because of that boost. Similarly, Jim is going to also be great just because of the basic attack boost that he gives his team. That's going to be a nice little combo. The damage over time is also going to be great with Sadness just because her green skill does damage over time. She'll go great with Hades, since with Hades Megara disc, damage over time skills do 100% more damage on his team. So Sadness is going to be dealing more damage with that. So Pleakley also gonna go great. So similarly, I guess you could say Study in a way could go great with it just because of that whole dynamic there. She's also gonna go great with Manticore for a similar reason. As you can see, Manticore gains basic damage per enemy that has damage over time effect on them. So if Sadness is using her green skill, this is just going to be giving Manticore more basic damage, so their combo together is going to be really cool. And then throw in Jim and you got a crazy little basic attack combo. Also, Manticore is going to work really good with Sadness because of her Mushu disc, which after the first 7 seconds of battle, damage over time effects deal a % more damage. So if you were to say put Hades and Manticore on one team with Sadness, this could be a crazy damage over time dealing combo, which I may have to do myself because man, it sounds really good. Fear is also going to be a great little combo with Sadness, especially with the Rex disc, giving Hardy to the frontmost ally and Reflect to tanks. That's going to be super helpful for getting Sadness to get all of her ridiculous damage off, because she does quite a bit of damage as the wave goes on, especially as she gets more and more stacks of Sorrow. So Fear is going to be great to help defend Sadness and keep her alive a little longer. You could also do Swedish Chef and other heroes that do Fatigue, just if you feel like going for like a all-out fatigue team. There isn't really any particular reason that this would be great, because there isn't really a super good fatigue combo.
Sorry, I went sad again, didn't I?
Other than the fact that Swedish Chef gives himself the buffs from the fatigues that he blocked, but that's only for him, so it doesn't really affect Sadness at all. But, I mean, if you want to have an all-fatigue team, have at it. I got an interesting one for you guys. Jessie is actually going to be a very cool little combo, especially with her red skill, because she'll just be using Sonic Yodel every single time her or an ally successfully dodge an attack. And if you remember from Sadness's white skill, she's just dodging constantly. If you have Sadness with Jessie, she's going to be Sonic Yodeling pretty much constantly. And Jessie is actually a very surprisingly good hero that not a lot of people use. I thought this was kind of a unique little combo with Sadness. So the last thing I have for the good with section is just a general anything that debuffs the enemy with the silence that Sadness gives. Their debuffs are going to be lasting 50% longer. So this would go great with Freeze, Stun, like Evil Queen, stuff like that, Blind, Study, anything like that is going to go great with that. So Sadness is just going to go great with just disables and debuffs in general. She's just a very good all-around hero that is really just good with almost anything, really. Definitely gotta be one of the best tanks in the game, for sure. And her power just ramps up more and more as the wave goes on. Pocahontas, I think, is gonna actually be a pretty interesting combo with Sadness, because she heals allies, the raccoon steals energy from the enemy, and then most importantly, the buff that she gives from her purple skill to yellow team gives basic damage, which for Sadness, that means that she's going to be gaining more damage in reality from this skill from Pocahontas. I think Pocahontas is going to go pretty cool with Sadness, so that's just another little thing to think about as Pocahontas comes out, and I just wanted to throw it in just because I saw that it was there. So we talked about a couple heroes that Sadness is good with on her team. Let's see who she is good against. Now, as I hinted to before, if you use Sadness's Joy Disc to reduce normal crit for enemies for the first 12 seconds of battle, this means that she's going to be really good against heroes with really high normal crit, like Mulan, Dash, Pleakley, Maximus I think has pretty high normal crit. I want to say Shan Yu. Davy Jones has pretty decent normal crit. But anyways, so that's going to be a good counter for those kinds of heroes if you're struggling against like Dash, Mulan, somewhat Study, but kind of not as much because Study is guaranteed to crit, whereas reducing normal crit would just make them crit less often. But anybody like that, she's going to be really good against. Another good, just general category that Sadness is going to be good against is pretty much tanks. So this could be, say, Maximus, Slinky, Clawhauser, Goofy, all the tanks, because of her white skill, giving them 2 stacks of fatigue, because often tanks have the ability to give themselves armor, shield, reality, anything that like boosts their defenses. So if Sadness gives them fatigue, they're not going to be able to use their buffs as often, making them a little bit more vulnerable, Sadness or her allies. Also, they're going to be silenced from being in the little circle of Sadness, meaning that they can't use any of their skills. So if you put Sadness on a team with heroes with a lot of debuffs and disables and stuff like that, they're going to be lasting 50% longer as well. So these tanks are just going to be completely wrecked by this white skill pretty much, I think. As well as just anybody in general that has a lot of buffing abilities. So this could also really go good against supports and stuff like that. But the reason I said tank specifically is because this skill targets the enemy with the most remaining HP. And often tanks just have the most HP. So this would be hitting tanks most often on the enemy team. So yeah, that is pretty much all I had for the good against section. Like I said, she's very annoying to deal with. She just does more and more damage as the wave goes on, kind of similar to Pooh. So let's move on to the final section, counters. How do you deal with Sadness and her really annoying damage that she does, her silence?
Oh, we'll never make
No,
it.
don't obsess over the weight of life's problems. Remember the funny movie where the dog dies?
The first one I wanted to talk about, which I don't think is that great of a counter, but it's kind of a counter for a very specific reason, because Sadness with his Isma Disc is immune to all slows, and if you remember, Sadness's purple skill applies a slow to the enemy. So that's pretty much all. So Sadness is just going to be helping deal with this aspect of her kit. It's definitely helpful, but overall not the best counter, but Syndrome can definitely help. Another just more general counter to Sadness is going to be just Hardy in general. Hardy is just going to block her silences from going off. So some of the good Hardy users in the game are Rapunzel, Belle, Joy, Linguini. There's quite a few more. Hardy is going to be really good. Cleanses are also going to be really good. If you don't know, what cleanses do is they clear debuffs from their team. There's only a few heroes that have cleanses. There's like 4 or 5 that have cleanses for their entire team, and then there's another 3 or 4 that only cleanse themselves. The ones that cleanse themselves are not really that crazy, but the main ones that cleanse their team are Rapunzel with her red skill, cleanses all debuffs from allies. Fairy Godmother with her purple skill, removes all debuffs and grants them 2 stacks of Hardy, so this is going to be a really good counter. Mushu has the ability. Manticore, like I said before, also has a very good counter for this, with removing debuffs from herself and allies. So this is just going to help against the silence and the slow that she's going to be giving to her enemies. Colette is going to be a very interesting counter to Sadness herself because of her purple skill, because this can get rid of all of Sadness's sorrows and basically just set her back to square one immediately. The sorrows are the key to what makes Sadness do so much damage. So if you are able to get rid of those sorrows, it's going to be huge help against Sadness, making her way more vulnerable to attacks, as well as Tron. I think Tron is the #1 counter for Sadness, personally. The one downside, obviously, like I said in the last hero review, Tron is very frail. But the white skill removes all active buffs from enemies, which basically just means that Sadness's sorrows are just going to be getting removed, and it just sets Sadness back to square one, giving you an opening in order to deal lots of damage to Sadness and taking her out. So I think Tron and Colette are definitely going to be huge ways to deal with Sadness and her annoying sorrow and the amount of damage she does. Going back to the forums,
I'm positive you will get lost in there.
I think Pocahontas is also going to be a good counter for Sadness, because she's going to be stunning Sadness quite a bit, stealing energy from her so she can't use her white skill to fatigue Pocahontas' team as quite as much. She removes X of their active buffs with the longest remaining cooldowns. So I believe this would actually remove sorrows from Sadness. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I think that's how that would work.
Goodbye, friendship. Hello, loneliness.
So, well, at the time of recording this video, Pocahontas isn't quite out yet, so it's hard to say if she's for sure going to be a counter for Sadness. I think, just based on the descriptions on the forums, that she's going to be a pretty cool little both combo and counter to Sadness. Another interesting counter to Sadness that I don't think a lot of people are going to think about is Basil. Basil is actually a counter to Sadness with both of his discs, which is interesting. With Randall disc, allies with the silence are healed for a % per second while they're silenced. So this could be a huge way to deal with all the silences the Sadness is going to be going off, as well as with the Mushu disc. Enemies with a damage over time effect deal 10% damage from their skills and basic attacks. So this is a way to deal with Sadness, as well as if you decide to go with like a Hades and Manticore combo and just a damage over time combo. This is going to be a great way to make it so that they don't do as much damage overall. So this is going to be a huge way to deal with Sadness that I think a lot of people are going to overlook. Another big way to deal with Sadness is just going to be stuns and disables and stuff in general, just so she can't do as much in general. So Evil Queen, Mim with her Hex abilities, Freeze, Silence, anything like that is going to be really good against Sadness just to slow her down. Because that's really the key, is you want to slow down Sadness so that she can't do as much. Another good counter is going to be Sap. Sap is going to help it so that she can't get her white skill off as much, which means your team is not going to be getting silenced as much, and they're not going to be getting as many stacks of fatigue applied to them. And then just a more general last bit that I want to add is just getting really quick damage off on Sadness is going to be super helpful. So this could be, I know I said that she's good against Dash and Mulan and stuff, but this could also be a great way to just get rid of Sadness right away with, say, Dash, Duke even, Mulan kind of. Anybody like that that's able to get really quick damage off right at the beginning of the fight is going to be super helpful. Korra, Darkwing Duck probably. I think that's about all I got for you guys today. I hope this helps you coming up with ideas for how to deal with Sadness. She is definitely very annoying to deal with, but I think with the right strategy, you can definitely take out Sadness before she completely wrecks you with her green skill. So if you liked this video, definitely give me a like, subscribe, comment. I love you guys. You guys are amazing. I just wanted to say that because this channel has been growing like crazy and I really appreciate it. So I know you guys are very sad that I have to end this video.
I'm too sad to walk. Just give me a few hours.
You guys can look forward to the next hero review. Who should it be? I don't know who it should be. Let me know. I'm definitely going to keep these coming. I know this one's a little bit behind from what I normally do. I'm trying to do like one every like week and a half or so. That's going to be it. Peace. Neutron is almost 3 million. Holy shit.
Evil Queen is now the new background for the really good category.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Fuck them all.
I love poo.